The air hung heavy, thick with anticipation. Doyuk, perched atop a rocky crag, scanned the horizon. His patience, already worn thin, threatened to snap.
Where were they?
Every rustle of wind, every screech of a distant bird sent his pulse racing. Beside him, his companions mirrored his unease. Whispers, hushed and urgent, passed between them. Their faces, etched with worry, reflected the dire situation. They were outmatched, outgunned, and time was a luxury they didn't have. The rock formations around them, once a sanctuary, now felt like a prison. The setting sun cast long, ominous shadows, stretching like grasping claws across the barren landscape. The silence, broken only by their ragged breaths, was deafening. Dohyuk gripped his weapon tighter, a cold knot forming in his stomach. He knew with chilling certainty that this was it, the moment they had been dreading, the moment they had to make their stand. A figure emerged from the dust cloud, silhouetted against the dying sun, tall, imposing, radiating an aura of quiet menace. This was the man they had been waiting for, the man who held their fate in his hands.
You've taken your time.
Doyuk's voice was low, dangerous. He remained seated, his posture relaxed, but his eyes burned with cold fire.
Time is a luxury I can afford.
The man smirked, a slow, predatory curl of his lips. His gaze swept over Doyuk's companions, lingering on each face before returning to Dohyuk.
You should have surrendered when you had the chance.
Some things are worth fighting for.
Doyuk shot back, his voice laced with steel. He rose to his feet, squaring his shoulders. The air crackled with tension. The silence stretched taut, ready to snap.
Foolishness. Bravery in the face of inevitable defeat is nothing but vanity.
The man chuckled, a chillingly empty sound. He took a step closer, and the temperature seemed to drop. The battle was about to begin. The ground trembled as the man snapped his fingers. From the dust, figures began to emerge, clad in dark armor, their faces hidden behind grotesque masks. Betrayal twisted in Dohyuk's gut.
You broke the covenant.
He spat, his voice raw with anger.
Covenants are for fools. I believe in power, and power's on my side.
The man sneered, his eyes gleaming. The ground beneath them began to glow. Intricate patterns blazed with an eerie light. It was a shrine, ancient and powerful. Dohyuk's heart sank. This was no ordinary trap. They had stumbled into a nightmare.
Section 4. The metal horror is unleashed.
With a deafening roar, the shrine erupted, stone shattered, dust billowed, and a blinding light engulfed everything. Dohyuk shielded his eyes, his ears ringing. When the dust settled, a gasp escaped his lips. Standing amidst the rubble, towering over them like a vengeful god, was a monstrosity.
The Kakudinal slaughter machine.
A hulking giant of metal and wire, its eyes burning with malevolent light. A weapon of war thought to be nothing more than a legend. Its metal skin, scarred and dented, oozed a viscous, glowing fluid. Its clawed hands, larger than a man, twitched with anticipation. A low, guttural growl emanated from its depths, vibrating through the air, through their bones. Terror, primal and instinctive, threatened to consume them. Even the most hardened warriors in Doyuk's group faltered, their faces pale with fear. They had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. This was annihilation.
Section 5. A retreat, not a defeat. We have to get out of here.
Dohyuk roared, his voice barely audible above the din. He knew fighting was futile. Their only chance lay in escape. He threw a small metallic cube towards the ground. It clattered against the rock, seemingly insignificant. But as soon as it made contact, a blinding flash erupted. A wall of shimmering energy, crackling and alive, sprang up around them. A temporary reprieve. The robot, momentarily caught off guard, slammed against the barrier with a deafening clang. The ground shook, cracks spiderwebbed across the energy shield, but it held for now.
Move, now!
Dohyuk screamed, urging his companions towards a narrow crevice in the rock face. It was a desperate gamble, but their only chance. The shield wouldn't hold for long.
Section 6. Walls of stone, heart of iron.
They scrambled through the narrow passage, the air thick with dust and the stench of ozone. Dohyuk, the last one through, felt the energy shield falter as the robot's claws slammed down again. He didn't look back. The passage twisted and turned, a claustrophobic maze of rock and shadow. The air grew thinner, the only sound their ragged gasps and the distant roar of the mechanical monstrosity. Fear lent them speed, pushing them beyond their limits. Doyuk's heart pounded against his ribs, his lungs burned with exertion. He pushed on, fueled by a primal need to survive. He had come too far, faced too much to die here, not like this. The passage finally opened into a wider cavern, dimly lit by a shaft of moonlight. They collapsed onto the cold, hard ground, gasping for breath. They were alive, for now, but the threat remained.
Section 7. Trapped in the shadow of the machine.
A sense of dread settled over them, heavier than the rock above. They had escaped the immediate danger, but they were far from safe, trapped in the heart of the mountain with a mechanical monster on their trail. Their situation seemed hopeless. Doyuk leaned against the cool rock, willing his racing heart to slow. He looked at his companions, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear.
He wouldn't let them die here.
He had to find a way to defeat the Kakudnol's slaughter machine. But how? Desperation gnawed at him. He had to think, had to find a weakness. There had to be a way. The distant clang of metal against stone echoed through the cavern. The fight wasn't over, not yet. This was just the beginning of a new, even more terrifying chapter.